The Public Servants Association, or PSA, says it's all systems go for tomorrow's nationwide strike. Government services at Home Affairs, Transport and Border Control are expected to be affected by this one-day strike. The last major strike in the public sector was over 10 years ago.
About 235,000 public servants belonging to the PSA will down tools across the country. The PSA issued a strike notice last month after the public sector wage talks deadlocked. The union is demanding a revised offer of 6.5% salary increase and the continuation of the cash gratuity. The strike is expected to affect some of the major government services across the country.
We're extremely confident that come tomorrow, we will be embarking on a nationwide march throughout all our provinces. There's been much anticipated support for it, so we're absolutely certain that the members will turn out in the numbers. And this will definitely affect services like Department of Home Affairs, where one processes your ID and passports, Department of Employment and Labor, where you have labor inspectors that will be conducting occupational health and work safety in workplaces. They definitely will be affected. Certain provinces, the Department of Transport that processes your licensing for your cars and your driver's license, all those members will be participating in the industrial action.
The PSA says it is disturbed by government's decision to unilaterally implement a 3% salary increase. The offer will see government paying out a 1,000 rand non-pensionable cash allowance until March next year.
There is a notice that has been delivered by the Department of Public Service and Administration. So what will happen is that they gave intention that they will be paying the salaries of these employees on the 15th of November. Now, this obviously has a severe impact on the collective bargaining process. If one looks at it in lay terms, if come next year we negotiate on salary increase and then there's an impasse or we don't reach an agreement, then the employer goes ahead and implement unilaterally. Then you ask yourself, what is the purpose of negotiation?
The PSA striking workers are expected to deliver a memorandum of their grievances to the National Treasury's offices in Pretoria. Meanwhile, COSATU's affiliated unions that have declared a dispute with the employer have not yet pronounced on their plan of action. The unions were expected to brief the media today, but the event was postponed. Naledi Matlapeng, SABC News, Johannesburg.
So let's continue with that. Public Servants Association spokesperson Claude Naiker joins us now to share some thoughts on the strike. A very good evening to you, Mr. Naiker. Thank you so much for speaking to us. As we've said, it's been 10 years since public servants have been on strike. What is the envisaged or intended impact you hope to have with the strike tomorrow?
Well, a very good evening to you. Judging from the fact that we have given notice on the 24th of October, and as mandatory, we're required to give 7 days notice of full-blown industrial action. And leading up to that full-blown industrial action, we've been picketing during lunch breaks. And if you look at the support during lunch breaks, as to the picketing process, it was overwhelming and awesome. So I think tomorrow we can expect a total shutdown of major government departments throughout the country, especially departments like the Home Affairs, Department of Transport, that processes your driver's license, your car licenses, Department of Labor, where you have inspectors that conduct inspections at private sector, retail stores, and workplaces that will severely be infected. But most importantly, your points of entry into the country and out of the country. Border control officials, our immigration officers, will certainly be joining us tomorrow in this nationwide march across the country.
But government seems to be of a different opinion. It says that the Public Service and Administration Service Department in particular has contingency plans to make sure that this strike doesn't impact government services, which of course it fears will also impact on foreign direct investment if it does have a major impact.
Yeah, sure. It's natural for obviously to send a response there to say that you will have a plan in place. No matter what plan you have in place, in majority of these government departments, the PSA is a major role player, meaning that we have majority members at these workplaces. If you take Department of Home Affairs alone, we are the majority membership in there. So if majority of our members do intend or are definitely coming out on strike tomorrow, no matter what contingency plan you have in place, it'll severely affect the services, just like the Department of Transport, where people will be queuing up to receive their driver's license or registering for the motor vehicle licensing. In those departments, we are also the major role players there. So these services will definitely be affected. Border control, also part of Home Affairs, we are the majority player there. That definitely will be affected as well. So no matter what contingency plan you have in place, it definitely will affect the service at all.
How true are reports, suggestions that striking workers are threatening to mete out not only disruption but destruction to government offices?
As a responsible union, the PSA has always advocated that when we do go on or embark on industrial action, our members should behave. And we've always done in the past. We've never had single incidents where PSA members were involved in destruction of property. I think once you do that, it diverts the attention of what the real cause of the strike action is. And if I may take this opportunity as well, and I call upon all members that our purpose is to bring to the attention of government that you have behaved wrongly, you have not taken our interest into consideration, and that we will demonstrate peacefully. We will not injure anybody. We will not destruct property, but we will, as I said, we will peacefully demonstrate, we will peacefully march so that the broader public can know exactly how public servants are treated.
Obviously, workers are angry with government. I think that's a fair assessment with the unilateral 3% wage increase that they've implemented. Now, I'd like to just hear your view on this. There's a University of Witwatersrand business professor who said, government can, use its contingency budget to meet the sector's demands, but that it will be a costly option and it will be a bad idea because he believes that over the past decade, government has been too generous with adjustments to civil servants. What are your thoughts out of this? Have you pushed the envelope too far, do you think?
Let me start with the last question first. During the time when we negotiated, our salary agreements was based on inflation-linked salary increases. So throughout the years, when the economy was conducive, we based our salary increases on inflation-linked. So in other words, when we reached an agreement with government was in total agreement that they should pay public servants inflation-linked salaries. We do understand the economy now is not in the same position. You will recall that we revised our demand from 10% to 6.5%. At that stage, the employer was around 1.5%. It upped its offer to 2% and indicated to us that's the final offer. At that stage, when we mandated our members expressly told us that we should reject that offer. And at that time, this prompted government to increase the offer to 3%. This is now a 3% pensionable salary increase, coupled with a cash gratuity. I think we tend to forget, in 2020, public servants did not get a salary increase because government had reneged on a 3-year agreement. On the 3rd year, they did not pay government employees the salary increase. So what we had to do in 2021, we had to compromise. We had to compromise because government simply refused to give public servants a salary increase once again. So we compromised by agreeing on a cash allowance. And in that agreement in 2021, it was stipulated that if we do not reach a salary agreement in 2022, that cash gratuity will continue. The simple reason for that is that public servants, in the event there's a delay in finalizing salary adjustments, they will not be out of pocket. So basically what they are getting at this very moment is the cash gratuity that they were getting last year. All we're asking government at this stage, that in the event that we do not reach a salary agreement for next year, that they must continue paying public servants the cash gratuity so that they are not out of pocket. The cost of food, transport, fuel has increased and continues to increasing. Our revised demand is below inflation. It's hovering around 7.4% inflation now. We're asking for 6.5%. Government has not moved from this 3%. So there's no concession from their side at this moment. I think the biggest hurdle is the cash gratuity, because we feel if it does continue beyond 31st of March next year, in the event there's a delay in salary negotiations, in the event that government is not prepared to give a better offer,
Naiker,
they will not be out of pocket.
We are running out of time, and I do need to ask this question. So government has already encouraged you to start negotiations for the 2023-2024 financial year. Does this mean from where they sit, it's a done deal, there is no questions asked? And if that is the case, after you embark on this national strike tomorrow, what is then your next move to force government to come back to the negotiation table in a manner that you would deem as in good faith?
The unilateral implementation, I must specify this, the unilateral implementation of the salary offer on 15th of November will have a detrimental effect on the future of collective bargaining, not only for the public sector, but also for the private sector. Our demand tomorrow, we will set out in our memorandum that government needs to respond to us within 7 days with our demands, failing which we will then continue with our industrial action. We will assess our program on a daily basis and decide on what future action we contemplate throughout the country. But that will only hopefully government will see the light and come back to the negotiating table and see how best they can try and resolve this impasse.
All right. Thank you so much for speaking to us. Public Servants Association spokesperson Claude Naiker. As you heard him say, they do expect their strike action, nationwide strike action, to be total shutdown, that it will impact on government services, including home affairs, ports of entry, many other services. So we're keeping an eye out on that.